We've always had not just a system of racism in our country, but also classism.
Black people have always wanted to be a part of the economic mainstream of society.
There's been mistrust, as I said, in the healthcare system because of inherent racism.
Slavery was justified by physicians and psychiatrists who argued that instead of oppressing us, they were benefiting us.
I guess I'd like to see more people having more of an equal voice.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Frankie Jones, and I am the chair of the Economic Development Committee for Glen Ellyn Area Alumni Chapter. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are so excited. This is the second edition of our Smart and Savvy discussion series. Economic development for Delta Sigma Theta is about empowering the community to build wealth, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Through your side hustle, through your main hustle. We're going to figure this out and we're going to share that information with you. So before we get started, I would like to ask Terry Norman, who is our second vice president at Glen Ellyn, to come on and do an official welcome. Terry?
I'd love to. Thank you, Soror. Good evening, all. My name is Terry Norman, and I am the second vice president and chair of the Program Planning and Development Committee for the Glen Ellyn Area Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. I bring you greetings on behalf of the almost 300 members of our chapter under the leadership of our president, Lysandra Banks. We are very excited about this next program. This is in our Smart and Savvy series, and the title says it all, Find Your Side Hustle. We live in a gig economy now, and that's defined as an economic sector consisting of part-time, temporary, and freelance jobs, sometimes online based. Well, I like to think about it a little bit more broadly than that, as Sora Jones mentioned. It's defined to me as just doing your own thing and making it work for you. The program tonight will talk about just that. Let's talk about it and figure out what your own side hustle is. Thank you, Sora Jones.
Thank you, Terry. We appreciate you giving the welcome. Wave hi to the puppy for us. Okay, so we're going to keep this moving. Nina Hunter is going to serve as our mistress of ceremony this evening. Nina, if you want to get started.
Thank you, Frankie, and good evening, everyone. As Sora, Terry, and Frankie both indicated, this is our second installment of our Smart and Savvy discussion series. With tonight's discussion, we will continue to explore strategies that can help us achieve financial stability and ultimately build wealth. If you joined us for our first discussion, you'll recall how we talked about how budgeting and saving can help us achieve our financial goals. And tonight, we will explore how the side hustle can help us on our journey to financial freedom. We have muted everyone, so if you have questions, please put them in the chat if you're here with us on Zoom, or if you're joining us via YouTube Live, please place your questions in the comments. And we will be sure to answer as many as we can before the evening is over. We have a fabulous panel tonight. And at this time, I'm going to ask each of them to briefly introduce themselves to us. So let's start with Serria, followed by Nicole, and then Regina. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
My name's Serria Rego. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, but I'm actually out here in Los Angeles, California. My career is I help people take control of their finances. I give them a plan for the future. And I guess my side hustle is I'm a finance social justice advocate and activist. So my team and I created the Black Wealth Matters educational series that you guys just saw the commercial for. And from that, I've actually collaborated with Hill Harper on his Black Wall Street group. And my side hustle is changing the world, which is a different form of payment. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Nicole?
Hello, my name is Nicole Kneeland-Woods, and I am a full-time realtor with Keller Williams. I have been in real estate for 7 years. Prior to real estate, I was actually the director of business development for a property management company, and I was doing that, very happy in that business, making good money, but I just wanted peace within myself, and I wanted more control over my financial outlook. So I actually was doing real estate part-time as I was the director for business development, and actually turned it into a full-time career. So very excited to be here.
So we look forward to hearing more about that, Nicole, and how you made that transition. Thank you. Regina.
Hello, everyone. And I'm so happy for everyone who decided that they would come on and hear about our side hustles, and hopefully we can get some questions answered for you as well. So again, I'm Regina Lee. Oh, okay, that's someone else. Okay, I'm Regina Lee. And I basically made my side hustle my full-time career, okay? And I am the co-owner of R&D Real Estate Investments, which is an real estate investment company. We do buy and flips, we do buy and hold, so we are landlords. But yeah, we are actually excited about that. And so I transitioned from having done this for over 20 years. I'm also a realtor. I presently work with Coldwell Banker Realty. And so it all just clicked for me, and so I decided that this is it was time, because I had the education, but I said, I don't want to keep working for corporate America. And so it was my decision to go ahead and make my side hustle my career.
Great. We look forward to hearing more about that from you as well, Regina, how you made that side hustle into your main hustle. So thank you, ladies, for those introductions. And I can tell from those introductions that we're going to have a powerful conversation tonight. I want to hear a whole lot more. So we're going to kick it off by talking about the connection between the side hustle and financial stability. According to a recent article in Forbes about side hustles in particular, some folks go into it because they need to help ends meet, and others go into side hustles because they want to create some cushion. Serria, you're doing a lot of work in the Black wealth space. Can you speak to the importance and the connection of the side hustle and how it impacts Black wealth?
Absolutely. So in terms of Black wealth, we always hear about the wealth gap, right? And but there's a few conflicting things. So we have the wealth gap going on, but we also have Black women being the most educated in America. So because a lot of us are still first generation college graduates, there's a high probability that our one income is being split, 3 different ways, 5 different ways. We're the one that made it out. So sometimes we have to try to elevate the lifestyle of the people in our families. So already that's putting us at a disadvantage in the present, right? From things that have happened in the past. So in terms of the side hustle, it's a way for us to minimize that wealth gap as much as we can.
So definitely having a good side hustle positions us to reduce that wealth gap, and because you're going to be building wealth, hopefully, if you have a good one. Any thoughts from Regina or Nicole on, just the importance of that, of your side hustle in your particular personal journeys and how that helped you build wealth. I'd like to hear from you, Nicole.
Okay. Like I had mentioned before, I was actually working at a company and I was the director of business development. And actually going back before that, I was actually a regional marketing director and I was laid off. And that actually inspired me to, find my own space. While I was sending out resumes, I was actually taking my real estate course. And during that time, once I passed my test, I actually started working real estate from day one. But I was still looking for, like we always do, something consistent. That's a consistent stream of income. And I reached out to a property management company. I created the position. The position wasn't created. So that was another hustle. That position wasn't created. I actually reached out to them. About 3 months later, they contacted me. I sat down and had an interview with the regional leasing person. And she said, well, we don't have this position, but I think you'd be a good fit when the time comes. Well, needless to say, she had a conversation with the vice president that evening. 2 days later, I get a call and he says, let's talk about what this position would look like. Well, I had already laid it out. I had already laid out what the position would look like. I had already laid out the pay. And he said, would you be willing to start next week? Of course, I was in it. But again, I created that opportunity for myself. But at the same time, I did not necessarily want to go back into that corporate environment. I mean, I did what I needed to do at the time, but I still did real estate. So for 3 years, I actually did real estate part-time, was able to build up my clientele. And then at the beginning of January of 2017, I told my husband, I said, by the middle of this year, I'm going to do real estate full time. So I put every waking moment into real estate. I mean, I attended every open house. I went to other areas that people didn't want to go to sell real estate. And I just worked it. I worked it because I knew that was ultimately my goal. And by May of 2017, I was doing real estate full time and I haven't looked back. So sometimes you have to create that opportunity for yourself. And again, the passion for me was being able to help people in real estate and then obviously building my own, wealth portfolio versus allowing someone else to build it for me. So that was sort of how I came into, doing it. But again, my motivation came from being laid off. That was my first time ever being laid off. I had worked since I was 15 years old. I didn't know what that looked like. So I said, you know what? I'm not going through this again. I'm going to find me another job. But at the same time, I'm going to have control over, what my financial footing looks like.
So definitely, it sounds like you were definitely motivated by wanting to have more control over your financial destiny. But it sounds like you also put a lot of thought and preparation into becoming a real estate agent for your side hustle. But Nicole, how did you know that it was real estate that you wanted to get into? Because I know you were working in the property management space, but did that open up the doors for real estate for you?
Yes, it actually did. I was actually doing marketing for that company. And then I started doing specialty leasing, which is basically commercial real estate. And that is what sparked that, just that excitement to be able to have control over earning a commission. So that, the better I did, the higher the commission. I was like, okay, so we have a little bit, more control here. And I love negotiating. I love actually making deals and, putting things together. And what I love about residential real estate over commercial was the emotional side of it. So for me, it's really about helping someone find that place that they're going to make and call home and create memories. So when I talk to other people about, because I get questions all the time, I want to do this or I want to do that. I said, what are you passionate about? Because the money will come. If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to wake up. You're not going to be going to sleep thinking about it. You're not going to want to put in the extra hours. When I was working for the corporation, I would actually have to work weekends and I could not stand it because again, they were forcing me to work weekends. I work 7 days a week now, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning sometimes and travel an hour to meet a client, and I'm playing my music, I'm like loving it. So again, I don't mind working 7 days a week because I'm working for me and I'm working for my kids. When I was working for a corporation, I'm like, I'm working, and the person I'm working for, they're at home sleep. They're on their yacht, they're vacationing, but I'm out here hustling. So working for yourself and doing for your own just gives you a different perspective, and it gives you, again, the motivation and the passion behind what you do. Like I said, the money will come, but if you're not passionate about it, it's not going to take you that far.
Mm-hmm. So I hear passion, I hear preparation. Regina, let's hear your story.
Well, for me, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. And so I decided that what I was going to do was going to be what they say, where the money resides. You know, that's was my goal right there. Okay. And so, of course, as I grew up, my father instilled in us that education is key. So he made sure that we were going to go get our education. And of course, I decided I wanted to continue to get higher education. Went on to get my bachelor's degree in information technology that I wanted to live. Okay, growing up, how I had grew up and everything. And so with that, I ended up owned me a 2-flat and was bringing in me some money on the side. Okay. And so with that, I was like, I can do this myself. And so I've been doing this for like over 20 years, because I was back when there were salespeople and there weren't real estate brokers. And decided I wanted to go ahead and start my own office. Did them. My main thing, for the most part, I tried to keep I had to hold on to that as long as I could. But I always had something else going on taking me the education that I learned. But my transition from making my side hustle my full-time gig was that. And again, the education popped in. I went back to school, got my MBA in strategic management. And I'm just like, well, since corporate America, every time I went on an interview, corporate America's like, well, you have the education, but you just don't have the experience. And, you know, even sometimes didn't even get I'm going to do it myself. And so out of the many different things that I did have a partner in crime. My brother was my business partner. And so we decided to just make it for real, if you will. And so that's what
do me, and I got the bag. That's great, but it's not really moving our narrative. It's not moving us anywhere, right? As a matter of fact, my biggest fear is that as Black women, we're the most educated, but my big fear is that we won't create wealth from all this new position. That's my biggest fear. And we're so far behind that we have to do 3 things to just catch up. So when I'm advising my clients on what to do and how to think of it, it's really, America is very much affected by systemic racism. Don't let anybody tell you it ain't, right? And so as a result, we can't necessarily, if this is the route from point A to B, that straight line is not for you. It's just not. So we have to figure out different ways to get there. And one of the biggest things that I think we need to utilize is the same tactics that were used during Reconstruction, which was being secretive, right? There are so many buildings and things on Main Street in America. We might not be able to get into the tech world, right? We might not. There are still things that are kind of closed off to us, either because of our knowledge or just because that's the industry. But we can get Main Street, right? There are so many of us who are writing checks to people. We don't know who they are. It can be us. And the reason why it needs to be us is because we don't need everyone knowing about that something that's owned by a Black person. Yeah, Black-owned businesses is a hot thing right now, but systemic racism has been around for over 400 years. Black-owned business is a hot thing right now, right? So we don't know if it's going to rubber band back. So you guys just consider that the side hustle can also just be you owning commercial real estate. It can be you owning the Subway sandwich shop. It can be you owning the drive. It can be you owning something instead of you giving your niece money or your sister money or your mama money. Well, not your mama, but everybody else money. Employ them. Don't employ your mama, but employ the other people, right? And pay them well, because if we don't do it, who will?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we have a couple questions from the audience. I'm going to turn to Frankie. Frankie, you have a question you have for the panelists?
I do. One of the things that was asked by one of our attendees is you talked a lot about starting your side hustle, finding your passion, getting that second stream of income, Serria. Let's talk about how we go about that, right? You all talked about walking through that path. What did you do and who helped you? Let's think about it, right? We're there for each other. We have mentors, we have people we work with. Who helped you move down that path to kind of get to where you are?
Thank you for asking. I hired coaches. And you guys, I think it's so much better. There's in the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, all throughout the book, he talks about putting forth the effort on the front end. The more effort, the more rigorous effort we put forth on the front end, the less we have to do on the back. And people say things like, well, if it's perfect, if it has to be perfect, you're never going to do it. Not really. It's not about perfection. It's just about setting yourself up for as much success as you can. So I think having money is not a bad thing. Definitely make sure that you're planning, you have the financial resources. There's coaches, free coaches, the SBA, the Small Business Administration, the SBDC, that's another one. There's so many resources. There's another one, the FMBCC. It's actually an African-American lady, and the vice president is a Delta. It's a Black chamber out here in California. And they have a lot of money and a lot of resources for Black business owners. So like there are the resources, we just got to find them. And I'm a resource for that. If you guys are interested and have questions, I put my website on there, and that leads to my website. You can set 15 minutes with me, but you got to have some counsel. Nothing's done by itself in a vacuum. And if you don't have it, pay for it. There are coaches. If you're not sure about the coach, research, but there's so much that we can Google and find out. Look at their background, look at their education, talk to them, see if they fit. Try the free coaches first and then pay where you need to.
And I would definitely say, just to piggyback on that, like she said, coaches and mentor, talk to people that are already into what it is that you're trying to do, so that you understand the ins and outs. So you know, again, what the pros and cons, how they got started, that type of thing. So even if they're not going to be your mentor or coach long-term, but really talk to people that are already doing what it is that you potentially want to do.
And something I'd like to add is just that sometimes there's different free seminars out there, okay? And as we all know, YouTube is like everybody's research guide, if you will. There's a wealth of knowledge if you do different searches there. But something as I was growing up that I used to do, and a lot of those different seminars back when we were gathering, they were very low price. I remember Chicago had some different seminars that were related to what I was interested in, which even not even thinking about real estate in and of itself, but just business, because I look at a side hustle, it's pretty much like a small business. That's your own small business. Right. And so in learning more about how to properly do that, those you get a chance to meet people, and your mentor may be there. And even if you don't have a one-on-one relationship, if there's certain people that you look up to and feel like their advice has been of value to you, you can follow them, and they may not know it, but they are your mentor because you are learning from a lot of their existing material that they have out there. And especially, like I said, with YouTube being out there, you can research almost anything and get the information that you need to propel your small business or your side hustle.
And there's even, just to go off what you said, there are a lot of Facebook, groups, and I've joined a couple just recently that I wasn't even aware of. And it's really around how to survive in the pandemic, being in real estate and what different people are doing, because, being in a seller's market right now, there's 10 people vying for a property. So how are you getting through to that seller that, your client should be selected to to win the bid. So Facebook has a lot of different groups that you can be a part of, you know, again, depending on what area you want to go into, just to talk the talk of that particular business or that particular interest that you're thinking about.
So I just want to have a follow-up question about, you know, I'm assuming many on the call today are interested in the side hustle. Maybe not everybody knows exactly what they want to get into. What advice do you have in helping folks determine what's the best side hustle to start? I've heard that you should monetize what you're good at, but what does that mean exactly?
If you like, I'd share my thoughts on that.
Yes, please.
I feel like I look at side hustles through a couple different lenses. So a lot of the time people may say, oh, let me think about what I'm passionate about. And so maybe I can propel that into my side hustle and make money off of it. Another way would be what you're good at. Because for an example, you know, some people may have a full-time job, but then they may braid hair or something like that. And they may have learned how to do it very well, but that's not something that they're passionate about doing, okay? But it's something that they do very well, and it's something that they can propel into a side hustle, okay? Because as we mentioned, it's not always the goal, but one of the main reasons is additional income, an additional income stream. And so people may decide, okay, I'll do this because I'm well at it and I can utilize this as an additional income stream. But then again, the first thing that I mentioned about something that people are passionate about, sometimes people have not just jumped in feet first to make it their full-time gig, something that they're passionate about, because they want stability. And so they start off with that 9-to-5 corporate America job or what have you to keep that income flowing in, because sometimes we all know that with the side hustles, that income stream may be sporadic. Okay, but those are the two angles that I usually, when I advise people, that they can look at it from those two angles when they're trying to decide what is it or what direction they would like to go.
Okay, any other thoughts?
All right, I would jump in. You know, I think everything is absolutely great about what you guys are saying. And I want to also give us permission to look at it a different way. And the way that I would like for us to look at the side hustles, instead of side hustle, look at the end goal as financial independence. And with financial independence, I want us to really start thinking about buying up these businesses, buying up the real estate. And in order for us to think about it, we're going to have to be financially focused. We're going to have that financial discipline. We're going to have to make sure that our investments are growing consistently, make sure we have a good tax strategy so that when we get out of those investments, we don't lose a third of it or so to capital gain taxes. It's like that's where professionals come in. And passion is such an interesting word, because I feel as adults, you can be passionate about what you're doing, but you can also be passionate about the end result, right? So I'm passionate about private jets. I'm passionate about first class stuff. I'm passionate about that, right? So if I have to buy a plastic store container or a 99-cent store, which I might not be passionate about, my end goal passion is good enough to get me there, right? I think sometimes we think that our money has to come from what we like and what we enjoy. Money is out there, and it's sometimes not even connected to what we know. And if we even take it a step further, we've been taught everything. None of us were born knowing how to do stocks, bonds, trading, or difference between capital gain taxes and ordinary income tax, or real estate, or HR. None of us were born with it. Right. And it's a shame that we spend so much money going to college to learn how to be employees. If you think about it, it makes me upset. But if we have the ability to learn all of that, we can also just learn whatever is going to make us the most money. So I say, while we're in COVID, really look at what did well. what did well during this time? It might be storage units, it might be liquor stores, it might be, I don't know, car washes, it might be something. And then compare that to 2008. And now you're getting in alignment with seeing what businesses might be recession proof based on the recessions we know, and then start there. But I would love to have us also consider that money is just money, and it does not need to be created to passion, because we can pick and choose what we're passionate about.
Very interesting perspective, because most of the time when I think about the side hustle, it's about okay, what other work can I do? But it sounds to me like we ought to think about what can we invest in as well to bring in that extra stream of funds, because at the end, we are trying to help build wealth. To some degree, it's about ends meeting, but we want ends meeting so that we can have some extra and start building that that retirement fund or whatever those other financial goals we have. Nicole, looks like you wanted to jump in there.
No, I was going to agree, because sometimes it is just passive income. It's money that you're making, whether you're awake or doing anything or not. It's investing, like Regina said, it's investing in property that's making you money while you're sleeping. So that passive income. Yeah. And again, it is the end goal. Like, I want financial, freedom, so that, on days where I'm too tired, I know I'm still financially set because I have other things that are coming in.
Okay, absolutely. Looks like we have another audience question. Frankie?
Yes, thank you, Nina. A lot of conversation in the chat about, first, you found your passion. You were talking about that, whether that's passion, whether that's the income stream, you're looking for additional income coming in. One of the themes that's coming through chat is, we just moved through a pandemic. We just went through, you talked about the real estate bubble, Regina. Stuff is going to happen, right? How do you know where to go? How do you know how to stay on top of it? How do you deal with that pesky little thing like health insurance, right? Some of us are being real practical in this conversation. I got a family and we got to go to the doctor. When you started to make those moves to become self-employed, Serria, Nicole and Regina, when you went out on your own, how did you deal with that practical side of life? Don't be shy.
All right, I'll go first. I'll go first. So in terms of, I'm out in Los Angeles. The good thing about LA is that we're all entrepreneurs. So our health system really does support entrepreneurs. We have a lot of places where you can just pay for the doctor's visit. And then there's another thing where there's concierge services where you kind of pay for preventive healthcare. But if you have to have healthcare, you have to have healthcare. But please remember, healthcare isn't necessarily the reason to have a job, because the people who own the companies have the healthcare too. So that's it. You just got to be creative. Maybe the cash clinics.
Interesting.
So I'll just jump in and share a little information. So for me personally, I was blessed to have a husband who has a really good job. And so I'm actually under his health care. But the way I try to advise others is that you have to learn how to pivot, when we get to times where things are rough, because it could not even be a pandemic, back, like I said, like when the real estate bubble bust, there was no pandemic, but we were still going through what they call a recession. Things were still rough for everyone. And a little saying that my brother, my business partner, loves to say is, sometimes you have to take a couple steps back in order to take double those steps forward. Okay. And so sometimes you may have to, we're blessed to have what they call it Obamacare, as much as you may not, want to go that route, because maybe you're used to having health insurance from some other avenue, we're blessed to have that available to us. So sometimes you have to be able to take two steps back in order to be able to take a few more steps forward. And you utilize those opportunities that are out there for us in order to save your money so that you can be ready, to do the next things that you're ready to do. So during, while doing that's one of the other avenues that I like to share with people is while you are making this extra money with your other income streams, save, save, save. That needs to be a part of your business plan, or however you want to label it, is to make sure that a portion of that is going into savings. So then when you do, or if you do, shall I say, encounter something like what we're dealing with right now, you have some padding that can help to support you to get you through. But if you don't have that, you have to figure out ways to pivot so that you can make things work regardless.
So I hear, I'm didn't really lose my train of thought here, but with the question I wanted to follow up on is, do you have to have a lot of money to have passive or create passive income, or to take that leap into the, self-employment arena? Do you have to have a lot of money? How does one do that? And if you're barely making ends meet, what is the best way to try to, get out of that situation using things that you're good at doing from a side hustle perspective?
I like to kick it off. You definitely want to have, before you start any type of business, you want to have a financial advisor. You want to consult with someone so that they have your short-term and long-term goals. So they can obviously, help you sort of assess, okay, will you be ready, say in 5 months or a year? Will you have enough saved, or will you have enough investments saved up for you to actually take that side hustle or that passive income and make it your primary? Will it allow you to leave your job? Maybe it won't. Maybe you have to do it for a year or maybe 2 years. Again, for me, it was 3 years, before I was comfortable, even though there were months where, my real estate was doing better than I was doing financially at work. There were months where I had some good months, but I needed consistency. Like I needed to see it, for a while, and I needed to, see that that growth in my business. But those are things you have to invest in the beginning. Like Serria was saying, you have to put a lot of investment on the front end so that you can sustain and maintain long term. But definitely you want to have an accountant or financial advisor by your side. That's key.
Mm-hmm. Frankie, did you have another?
And in terms of, yeah. You guys, I was hearing that if you're not making enough, at some point, we got to get money motivated. You got to get money motivated. You really have to be intentional about what you want to make, when you want to make it, and be very money motivated. And that's where your structures and systems come in. I joke around and say we got to repurpose our girlfriends. We got to go from our girlfriends to a mastermind group. We got to go from our church members to an incubator, right? We got to start repurposing our relationships so that we're getting what we need to get from point A to B. Because if we're using words like if we're not making enough, that's I feel like in the Black communities there's two types of people. There are the umbrella holders, and they're the people under the umbrella, right? You can be any one of them at any point in time. My job as a financial professional is to make the umbrella holders, make their umbrellas bigger and stronger. And at some point, I want the umbrellas to link up and we become a dome that protects the Black community. But if you're saying things like, I'm not making enough, you might be under the umbrella. You might need some support, right? But if you're an umbrella holder, then you gotta change your mindset, and it can't be small. You don't want the umbrella like the Six Flags umbrella that just covers your head and your shoulders are wet and your feet are wet. No, you want to make a big umbrella to cover you, your family, your community, God willing, your neighborhood. You want to make it as big as possible. But we can't get there if we're playing too small mentally.
So the thinking is key in how we think about it.
Thinking is everything. It doesn't get created.
Absolutely. And that's the
Yeah,
purpose of the conversations we're having now, to help with thinking and educating. And we're only going to scratch the surface tonight, you know, but hopefully it'll have people go do further research and get those coaches to continue their journey financially.
And you know what? I always say it's good to have girlfriends, but you also want to have goal friends. You want to have people around you that they want to do better as well. So, you know, they're always looking for opportunities. They're linking you up with people. They're networking. So when they're in a room with people, I have friends, they have my cards. So they're passing out my cards. You want to have friends like that in your circle so that they're building you up, and you're doing the same. You know, you're doing the same for them. So you, again, not to say you discredit or, you know, stop hanging around with certain people, but, you know, you still need to have a set of friends that are, you know, goal oriented, and they're wanting to do things, and they're wanting to build up as well. It goes to the mindset. It goes back to the mindset.
Have to be goal oriented, very key. So I've heard preparation, I've heard your mindset, I've heard resilience, some of the key things that we've heard tonight. And we touched on this a little bit around the pandemic. Can you guys speak to how the pandemic has affected you and your businesses, or in some cases, may they have caused you to thrive? So just wonder how you've weathered this pandemic. We've been in it for a year now, and things have been a little different for folks.
Yeah. For me personally, and it was unexpected, obviously, for everyone, you know, but interest rates were really low. I had a ton of buyers. Last year was actually, and I'm still just grateful for it, but last year was actually my biggest year yet. Sales wise, I just had so many clients, but I had to shift my business because I did have so many clients. I actually had to hire an assistant part-time just to help with that. But again, it was something that prior to that, I wasn't willing to do. I didn't want to let go of some of that money.
Oh.
But at the same time, I had to look at it as, you know, if my business is going to grow, if I'm going to get better, if I'm going to still be able to provide that service, I'm going to need someone that can sort of fill those costs for me. But again, this year has been different from last year because, you know, the market is pretty dry in terms of homes and inventory that's out there. So I'm finding myself having to talk to more sellers and having to be a little bit more creative in how I present, you know, offers to clients, you know, for clients and things like that. But again, like Regina talked about earlier, you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to shift. Your business can't be so stagnant that you can't change, you can't grow, you can't adjust to what's going on around you. So for me, it was, you know, it was business-wise, it was a good year. It was definitely a good year.
That's good to hear. What about you, Serria?
2020 was a recovery year for me. In 2019, I had two very powerful Black male friends of mine commit suicide. And I had never had anyone in my life commit suicide. So to have two of them in 1 year commit suicide, I was just like, I started getting confused about what suicide was. I thought it was a monster that would come and get anybody. And so so 2020, I was already kind of like waking up and getting out of the fog, going, you know, doing a lot of self-care. And then when I saw George Floyd be murdered right there on the street, it weaponized me. Because I thought, you know what, I couldn't help them fight against themselves, right? I couldn't help that fight, but I'll be damn sure I'm not going to let these police get you, you, my brothers. And so what happened was I really it weaponized every molecule and atom in my body to look at what's affecting us as a community in terms of this fight that we're doing against systemic racism. And that's where the Black Wealth series came from, because it's not enough to just talk about making money and getting money. You'll still get shot in the face. You'll still get choked out. You'll still get all of this other stuff. So what else do we need to do? And that's the conversation that I've been doing. And since I've been having these raw, aggressive, not too friendly all the time conversations, I've been doing very well financially. And I get magazine interviews. I get, I'm partnering with Hill Harper, and I have other stuff down the pipeline. It's just a lot of people that want to hear this conversation now.
And I think the key is being authentic, right? And having that passion and being able to provide that insight and value to folks. And you do attract in those cases. Regina, what's the pandemic been like for you?
Well, similar to what Nicole was just talking about in terms of mindsets, it really made me rethink a lot of things, and it made me say, just sit down and just be still, okay? And a lot of the things, as far as my business and my side hustles were concerned, it made me decide, well, because things are changing in the real estate world, there's a lot of different avenues to make money in real estate. And so I decided I wanted to just focus more on my investment side versus being a realtor, not saying I let that go or anything, but I said, I'm going to shift my focus more so on that end. And so what we did, our company, is that we focus, because we are landlords, we have multiple units and working with that. And mind you, because of the pandemic and the eviction moratoriums, that has made it very difficult for landlords, okay? And so, because we got a list of renters who purposely are not paying rent, okay? But have to become resourceful. So there are resources out there available. We shifted and decided to make sure we reached out to tenants so that they are taking advantage of those resources, which in turn helps us as the landlords to make sure the rent gets paid. It's helping them, it's helping us as our business. But then on the flip side, as I was beginning to say, as far as shifting to the other side of our business, we decided we're going to invest and we're going to start working on doing our flips, which is another part of our business. And so we've invested and have been working toward rehabbing properties so that we can put them on the market so that they can get sold. But even above that, as I sit and listen to some of the comments that Serria was saying, as I said, it allowed me to sit and be still and just to think. And I'm a service person at heart. And it had me also thinking of some of my next moves that I would like to make, of which those involve helping others. Because we are in such a detrimental state, this world, in my opinion. And there's a lot of hate going on right now. And I feel like, how do you conquer hate? You conquer hate with love, and you start binding together and you start helping one another. And so I said, that's going to be some of my next moves. And so putting it down on paper, starting up those next business plans. It might start out as my another side hustle, or I may just go full-fledged with it. But that's some of the things that and how the pandemic has shifted us and me. So in my business, so both on the negative side, but also on the positive side.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that there was some good things that happened out of that, and for many, there was some tough things and some time to reflect and time to figure out how to do things differently in a lot of cases. And so glad to hear that you guys have come through it, no matter what the situation was for you. Frankie, did you have an audience question? Okay, go ahead.
I do have an audience question. A
Okay.
lot of discussion about, and I heard the goal friends. I like that, Nicole. I'm gonna have to use that. And then also the incubators, right? That's powerful. How do we turn those groups that we're in anyway into a situation that can help all of us? And that's some of the conversation that's happening in chat. Serria, you put something in there about the Think and Grow Rich, the group that you have every Wednesday. But how do you find those people? How do you find those goal friends? We don't all have those people in our lives. What are some of the tactics that you use to find the right people?
Is that for Serria, Frankie?
Sorry.
Let's start with
In
Serria.
terms of, okay. In terms of goal friends, you know, it's really talking to people and not judging where they are, but understanding that you need to do some more work and get out there and get in the right rooms or be around the right people. Sometimes we're in situations where we don't offer anything of value yet, right? Not to them. We don't offer anything of value yet. And people still love people. I also have a How to Win Friends and Influence People book. And and that one we do on Saturdays at 8 a.m. And there's a story in there about Charles Schwab, who basically finagled a relationship with him and Rockefeller and Carnegie and all of those people. He was the broke kid in the room. And they were actually warning everybody, they're not going to listen to you, they're too rich, you know. And he ended up not only creating relationships, but ended up getting, you know, becoming a multimillionaire from just adding value in terms of ideas and conversation and personality. So when you don't, there's always something we have of value. And when you don't have anything, it's just you sometimes. It's your personality, it's your likability, it's all those things. And if you don't have it, one of the realities is we always need to be working on something.
Value, adding value is the key, no matter what arena you're in. If you're not adding value to your goal friends, your colleagues, the customers you're serving, then it's going to be hard to be successful. So we're coming up to the close of the hour. And so I'd like to close before we turn it back over to Frankie with one last question for each of you. What is the number one piece of advice you would give to anyone looking to expand their side hustle? And we're going to start with you, Nicole.
One takeaway I want to leave everyone with is treat your small business like a big business. So what I mean by that, just like if you were in corporate America, you know, returning phone calls within, 24 hours, responding to emails, setting goals for yourself, just like your boss would do, set your own goals. So set yearly goals, I have an annual sales goal every year, and I break that down by month. I break that down by week. I break that down by day. When I wake up and I have a home-based office. When I come to my office, I come dressed and ready to work. I can't come in here in sweats because I'm gonna have a totally different attitude versus I'm not saying I come in a suit or anything like that, but I still come so that when I'm talking to my clients or when I'm talking to prospective clients, I'm in that mindset and I block out my time. So treat your small business like a big business.
Great. Regina. Same question.
Yeah, I had to come off mute. So when I talk to people in their side hustles, small businesses and stuff, I love acronyms. So I came up with an acronym, and I feel like that I tell people, make sure in your small business or your side hustle that you bring the fire. And what does FIRE stand for? That's FIRRE, okay? F is for focus, making sure that you remain laser beam focused on the goal that you have in mind in terms of how you're going to propel your business to reach the goals that you want to reach. I is for integrity, okay? You have to make sure that you gain that trust of that person, that potential client, whoever it is that you want and that you're working with. that you want them to become your client, okay? And they're going to do that through trusting you. R is for responsibility. You have to take responsibility for all of your actions and figure out systems to create and keep yourself accountable. You know, the good and the bad. You have to take full responsibility for that and act upon that to make it still go in the direction of your goals. The other R, it's not for Regina, but it's for respect. Okay, you got your competition out there, okay, but you want to respect your competition and you want to make sure that you are working collaboratively with them, building partnerships. You know, I sit back and, you know, there's these two real estate ladies, they don't know they're my mentors, but they're my mentors. And I watch them just work like a hand in a glove, and they are two top real estate individuals in Chicago and the suburban areas, and they are just killing it. That's because they respect each other's niche and was able to create partnerships to make each other's business grow. And lastly, energy. And you have to show that enthusiasm and energy for your business in order to get others to be engaged and to be as excited as you are about your business and your side hustle. And so that's why I advise people to always bring the fire. And that's why I try to do that just the same when I'm trying to create clients and make my potential clients into my real clients.
Thank you, Regina. We're definitely going to remember to bring the fire. And last but not least, Serria. You're on mute.
I see it. Thank you. And thank you, ladies. And thank you, Anastasia, for being in the chat room and being so quick, and everyone for having me on. I really appreciate it. Everything Nicole and Regina said, I absolutely agree. Treat your small business like it's a big business, which to me just means have integrity with everything you do. Be that person that people can count on for having integrity, because you never know when anybody's watching you. They're watching you, you don't know. So pretend it. And then I love what Regina was saying about focus. Focus is so important. You know, it keeps you from being busy. I feel like busy is such a killer of wealth. As a matter of fact, busy sometimes make us broke. And I would add, think bigger and grow into that person. Think much bigger and grow into that person. So yes, we can be the real estate agents, and we can also own the brokerage with 500 real estate agents, right? Yes, I can be the financial advisor of 300 clients, but my goal is to recruit, train, and develop advisors, right? Yes, my family could be okay, but I want to create gated communities to protect other people's families. I think we got to think bigger. In Think and Grow Rich, there is a chapter about faith. And I was thinking about the Black community because we have so much faith, right? We have more faith than everything, but our faith isn't matching our assets because on top of our faith, we're taught money is bad, money is this, money is that. And what if we weren't? What if we were taught that money blesses communities, that money changes generations, that money is necessary for us to leave a mark on the world, that we should all leave a legacy to our sorority in our estate plan, that we should leave something to our university and leave something to our favorite nonprofit and our family and our nieces and nephews, even when we don't have kids, right? What if that coupled with our faith would change the Black generation, the Black net worth, and maybe 2 generations at the most?
Absolutely. Ladies, this has been a very informative and engaging evening. I wish we had more time, but I know you all are busy and time is money, as they say. And I'm sure you say that too. But thank you so much for sharing your tidbits of wisdom with us and our participants tonight. You know, treat the business like a business because it is a business. Bring the fire and think bigger. It's the mindset, it's the goals, it's the work, it's the resilience. Those are all key themes we heard tonight, and we appreciate you all giving us your time tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Frankie, who is going to close us out. Frankie?
Thank you so much, Nina. And ladies, Nicole, Regina, Serria, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I took lots and lots of notes. I got lots of tidbits over here. So for everyone who attended, thank you everyone for being on with us. Like I said, this was our second panel discussion. We have one more left. We talked about getting rid of debt. We talked about building wealth with your side hustle. And now we're going to talk about planning for the future. Serria talked about it, generational wealth. How do we get to that as a community? Our next panel discussion on May 26th, 7 p.m., be here. We're going to have a nice conversation about how do we build that wealth for our generations? How do we make sure we leave that legacy for those who are coming behind us? Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you. Good night.
Blessings.